The Formula 1 hybrid era had many wet masterclasses. There are many chaotic races with drivers slipping off and surprising results. There is, however, one race that no one talks about. So I took it upon myself to make a funny race review about a 2015 race that was completely overlooked, despite all the crashes and a driver winning his third title, causing a heated cool-down room. Roll intro. The date is October 25th in the year 2015, 56 laps on the circuit of the Americas. COTA is a regular race on the calendar now, but in 2015 it was only the fourth time the Grand Prix was held there. The weather was awful the whole weekend. It disturbed the practice sessions on Saturday, and during the washouts, some of the teams did all kinds of funny things to entertain the visitors. Daniel Kvyat and Daniel Ricciardo did a bit of ballroom dancing, and Max Verstappen and Carlos Sainz did some bowling. Sauber, Force India and Williams made makeshift boats and simulated fishing to pass the time. All good fun and nothing to complain about, you'd think. However, Ferrari team boss Maurizio Arrivabene criticized the other teams for the pit lane fun. He said, and I quote, "We are a Formula 1 team, not Cirque du Soleil." Imagine that, a Formula 1 team being compared to a circus. Inconceivable! Ferrari has always had the strategy of a three-ring circus. Maybe that's enough for them. The weather was so bad during qualifying that they didn't run in Q3, so the results of Q2 decided the starting grid. Qualifying was a big old mess, with Sainz crashing his Toro Rosso in Q1 and lots of drivers slipping and sliding in Q2. Even Hamilton couldn't help spinning. So the front of the grid was as follows. Nico Rosberg on pole position, Lewis Hamilton P2, Ricciardo and Kvyat on the second row. Then two Force India cars with Perez and Hulkenberg. The P7 grid position was for the one and only 2008 world champion Felipe Massa in his Williams, and in P8 we see a fresh 18-year-old Max Verstappen in his Toro Rosso. P9 and P10 were for Alonso in his McLaren Honda and Romain Grosjean in his Lotus Mercedes. The race started while it was dry, but the track was incredibly slippery, so everyone started on inters. Lewis Hamilton showed what a lovely clean driver he is by driving his teammate and competitor off the track. Rosberg was ahead and even got touched by Hamilton, and nobody batted an eyelid. How this man has a squeaky clean reputation is beyond me, but don't get me started on that. In any case, Rosberg lost a bunch of positions thanks to those antics. In the back regions of the grid, where the fun stuff always happens, we saw a lot of crap flying through the air, thanks to a load of small collisions. Will Stevens, who the hell's that, was hit from behind by his teammate in Marussia, Alexander Rossi. That's an American driver as good as Logan Sargent was at his home race back in the days when we only had one race there. Stevens was the first out of many drivers to retire. Next was Bottas, who retired during a virtual safety car, which was summoned to clear the track of all the earlier mentioned crap on the track. I mean debris, not actual crap. The race restarted, and it was either Ricciardo sleeping or Rosberg being very awake, but he passed Ricciardo to take third place. This made Horner shake his head in disgust. A bit like we do nowadays for him. Talking about crap, Romain Grosjean also retired thanks to the lap 1 incident. The chaos was great for two drivers in particular. Sainz moved up to P10 and Vettel, who had started way back due to an engine penalty, was in P6. At the front, the Mercedes and Red Bull drivers were fighting each other and Kvyat had a trip off the track. This allowed Ricciardo to overtake him, and he later also overtook Rosberg for second. It was very slippery and the track just didn't seem to want to dry. A battle for the lead developed between Hamilton and Ricciardo until the Australian moved around Hamilton on lap 15. Shake and bake, baby. Then it was time for baby Max to take it to the 4-time world champion in a Ferrari. Verstappen passed Vettel and stayed close to the Red Bull and Mercedes drivers up the front. Rosberg was fighting Hamilton now, and as usual he lost the battle. He needed to beat Hamilton to keep him from winning the title in this race. A lovely battle between the two title contenders with Kvyat on the front row seat unfolded. It was clear how little grip there was. Then it was time to get rid of the intermediate tires, and this changed the pace of the different cars a lot. The Mercedes cars could finally use their power advantage, and the Red Bull couldn't keep up with their Renault engines. Kimi Räikkönen slid off the track on his fresh cold tires, but managed to use his rallying skills to slowly get himself out of trouble. Rosberg and Hamilton were soon leading the race again, and that's when Massa and Räikkönen retired. This battle was a survival of the fittest, and the good drivers were on their toes to not get themselves into trouble. Then Marcus Ericsson's Sauber came to a halt, and this brought out a real safety car. I haven't seen one of them in ages, as I'm writing this in 2024. Bernd Mailander hasn't seen any action for months now. I wonder if he's married to the safety car. That would explain it. This is exactly why you don't have any friends. Vettel and Verstappen used the safety car to get a pit stop, and they joined again in P4 and P5. At the restart, Kvyat lost a few places, and Max Verstappen passed him with ease. Daniil tried to hang on, but lucked up, so that didn't work. He slid off track and lost the position to Nico Hülkenberg. A feisty Max Verstappen passed Ricciardo as well, his future teammate and friend. Nico Hülkenberg and Ricciardo got into a scrap, and the future Renault teammates collided, which saw the German non-podium finisher retire. Another one bites the dust. Ricciardo suffered damage that would hamper him for the rest of the race. Another virtual safety car was called to clear Hülkenberg's Force India, and again a few drivers pitted, and it changed the order again. I can't keep up anymore, but I do love these kinds of races. Lap 43, Kvyat showed why he was replaced by Red Bull and by Kelly. He crashed the car pretty hard because on the still half-wet track, he drove over the AstroTurf, which is slippery as hell. Hamilton and Vettel pitted again, but a lot of others didn't, so the race restart had the following top 6. Rosberg, Hamilton, Verstappen, Vettel, Alonso, Perez. Young Max tried to stay in the podium position, but he was passed by Vettel. Oh well, shit happens. Nico Rosberg was in the lead, but he was surprised by a gust of wind, so he says, and slipped off the track, giving Hamilton the lead. Vettel pushed hard to try and overtake Rosberg, but eventually they finished with Hamilton in P1, Rosberg in P2 and Vettel in P3. This meant that Hamilton won his third title, and Max Verstappen scored his second P4 finish in his rookie season. The conditions were hard, but he kept it on the track, and he was ahead of the two Red Bull drivers before they got into trouble. Hamilton felt blessed, and it was a humbling experience to equal his idol Ayrton Senna. What happened in the cooldown room was one of the most iconic scenes to illustrate the Silver War at Mercedes. Hamilton, being all happy with his championship, chucked the Pirelli cap towards Rosberg, who was sulking because he's Britney bitch, and Rosberg flung it right back at him. And that concludes the 2015 Austin GP Funny Race Review. Subscribe. Take care now. Doei doei.